The Tartan Arms YouTube channel has been putting out a lot of great stuff lately, so make sure to go check them out if you haven't already. This is also the same guy that is doing the podcast with Milo LARRATT. But in case you guys have not already seen this clip, in the latest video they put out, Devon explains something that is very important in his prep for Levon, something I think a lot of us have been wondering about. Let's take a look at the clip.
Yeah, and I'll taper every week. I cut the rep range.
You're going to keep the singles, same with singles? Or?
Yeah, I'll keep the singles.
So if you guys couldn't hear what was being said there, Devon is talking about his taper. He said that he is cutting reps each week. However, he does say that he is going to keep the singles. And I think this is the most important part. Some of the stuff Devon had been saying in his videos kind of sounded like he was done with his super heavy lifting already and that he was winding down his prep for the match. This would have given him over a month of recovery before the match, and to me, and a lot of you guys as well, that sounded like too much total rest. But now we know that this is not the case. It sounds like while Devon's volume will be reduced, potentially his very heaviest lift he will ever do might be on the last day of this month, which is still over 2 weeks out. And I like this strategy a lot better. Now there is one thing I am a little unclear on. When Devon said that he is cutting his rep range, this could mean a few different things. Firstly, and I think most likely, this could potentially mean that he is going to be cutting his volume on his singles down. Devon has told us that sometimes he was doing as many as 10 singles in just one day. With normal Bulgarian method, you end up hitting your singles 3 times per day, so 10 is definitely a huge amount of volume. So maybe Devon is just saying that as his taper progresses, he will be doing fewer singles throughout the day. Maybe eventually that means just 1 in a day. However, technically, you would normally refer to this as sets or total volume, not reps. This could just be a semantics thing. Maybe he's saying reps since he is doing singles, but I think it's also possible that he's talking about his rehab work here. Maybe he's saying instead of doing sets of like 50 reps, he's going to do sets of 20 or something like that. Still rehab weight, but so that he is priming his body for explosivity and not endurance as he gets closer. This kind of sounds more like what he actually said, but I think that the volume reduction in regard to the singles makes more sense for the taper, so I'm not sure which one he's talking about here. Something else that is interesting is the way he phrased what he said makes it sound like each week is a block. He said that he's cutting rep ranges each week. Now he could just be saying week in a very general symbolic way to indicate the gradual taper, but it could also mean that he's doing the exact same thing for 1 week total, then cuts out a big chunk of volume, does that same thing for the second week, and then cuts more volume and repeats this process until he gets down to no blood flow work at all and only 2 to 3 singles a day, for example. Now why would any of this matter? I think one of the biggest reasons this would matter is that if we are correctly interpreting what Devon said here, it sounds very likely that Devon is going to keep hitting PRs all the way up until April 1st when he begins his rest period. Devon is already at 161.25 on his pronation, and it looks like he's somewhere around 115 or maybe even more on the rise lift. So by the end of the month, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up hitting another 5 pounds on both these lifts. And it could be even more because since he has been doing so much total volume, his realized strength gain should be very high in theory as he cuts this volume out. And the last thing I was curious about was his practice schedule. I did notice that in the Tartan Arms video, Devon seemed to be intentionally staying very close and not allowing his arm to open at all. So maybe he is going to continue to practice, but the way in which he practices will change a little bit. Let me know what you guys think about all this, but I definitely think this is a good thing for Devon's stock. Resting for over a month just sounded like too much, but potentially hitting your final PR on March 31st and then resting the next 20 days until the match sounds pretty much perfect. 5.5 weeks until match day.